afternoon, friend and foe, near and far. Today is year 3 since I thought I was going to die. And I would love some input as to what I can refer to this day, because calling it an anniversary doesn't feel good. I don't know if there is any answer to that, but if you get any input, let me know. So 3 years ago today, a stranger came into our yard and I confronted him, and he was unresponsive to me, so I called the police, and he then proceeded to attack me after I made that call. So you can refer to some older videos if you want more information there. I'm just here today to read this year's review board, my new impact statement, and I'm going to read you the disposition. I've never done that before, and I get a lot of questions about him and what's going on with him. So for once, I think I've read this word for word more than twice now, so I'll read it to you. It might help answer your questions. And then I'm going to let you know kind of the direction I want to take this. It's been 3 years where I'm hoping to use this experience to make a change to the system, and particularly in the focus of victims, of course, where I'm the victim in this situation. I don't really like saying that because I don't view myself as a victim. I survived, and I don't even want to say I'm a survivor, because I'm trying to see myself as a thriver. And so I guess I'm kind of stuck in the middle there right now, but anyways, I'm obviously not feeling myself. So I thought this was going to be a little more lighthearted because I'm doing really well. But yeah, I'm not. The next book I need to read is Does the Body Keep a Score? I believe is what it's called. Because I really feel like it does. Anyways, let's take a deep breath and try not to dive into this completely emotional. Okay, so here is my statement for the review board that happened on February 14th, 2024, so just last month. But I wrote this statement in January, so here we go. 2 years, 9 months, and 22 days. Today is January 21st, 2024. 1,027 days since I believed I was going to die. I am Grace Fram, and I am one of 4 victims of the hands of Dallas Ritchie. Year 3 is approaching, and I fell apart again last week. Already weak from fighting the flu, I then received the news of the upcoming review board hearing. I found myself hurtling out of control once again. PTSD halted any chance of a regulated nervous system. Simple tasks were no longer simple. I was choked up, panicked, hurt, and feeling abandoned yet again. Even though there is no due date, the stress to submit my statement for proofreading increases the struggle to pull myself together. Simultaneously, I strive to maintain my daily responsibilities and mental health while I structure something suitable out of a swirling chaos in my head and mind. I shuffle through the challenges of surviving a crime-free, life-altering confrontation. I am a survivor. In hopes of being seen and heard, combined with the short notice pressure and the magnitude of trauma responses, this is the best statement I can put together. Like previous years, I suspect I will feel unheard and swiftly swept aside while I read it. Muted and minimized, I sense little acknowledgement for Mr. Ritchie's impact on us. For 3 days, I was consumed with dysfunctional panic. I spent a day preparing myself to dive into the horrendous task of formulating an updated statement for the review board regarding the extensive and compounding effects we suffer from the brutal attack that my son and I endured. Chores complete, food stocked, warm and cozy for spending Sunday at home as comfortable as possible, dedicating the day to curl up with the emotional support of my dog. This year, I cautiously write with efforts to avoid an offense since I suffered deeper insult to injury when my post-traumatic experiences were edited for the hearing that was held last year. My intention behind accepting the review board's invitation is not to harm others, but to describe Mr. Ritchie's direct, intense violation against 4 innocent lives. Ding ding, round 3. Here I sit to puke out words and attempt to explain the massive impact of my healing journey since Mr. Ritchie relentlessly thrust my own kitchen knives into my body. Surviving this aggravated assault has taken so much from me, stolen my sense of security, confidence, and innocence. I am shocked and agitated at how lightly Mr. Ritchie's capabilities are considered. My responsibilities as a single mother persuade me to trudge through the complex trauma he carved so deeply into my skin and bone. My son and I are trauma bonded. We have experienced an unbelievable assault on our lives, forever affected and altered. Our games of bad guys and superheroes are a swirling drain on my emotional well-being. The wide range between full-throttled joy to abruptly disturbed. Etchings across my face resemble 2 of Batman's antagonist characters, Two-Face and the Joker. However, usually I play Wonder Woman. Are superheroes in this world? Bad guys are real. Mom, I can fight them, my son will say, while immersed in triggers, I senselessly navigate the repetitive string of questions from the 2 confused young witnesses. Questions about blood, what it means to die, how sharp the knife is, and what can happen. Like when the bad man hurt you, they might say, or concerningly question, is that your bad hand? I do my best to guide them through our shared post-traumatic symptoms. Perhaps group therapy might help us. I wonder if that is an affordable option for us. Innocence was stolen from the boys that day, and they were forced to mature well beyond their age. My 6-year-old should not be the one coaching me through these frequent moments of nervous system dysregulation. With so much taken from me, I struggle letting anyone get close to me. I was not given a choice, a way out, an excuse, a consequence-free card. Without any given option, I carry the physical, financial, and mental burden that Mr. Ritchie thrust upon me. Compassion, care, and resources are pouring into the very same man that stared me dead in the eyes while mercilessly stabbing me all over my body with my kitchen knives. He lives in a different reality than us. A confusing attempt at explaining the dismissal of accountability for the reel of flashbacks from what used to be a well-loved movie, The Grinch, playing on the TV, to my bloody handprints on the wall, trails leading to puddles of blood on the floor, and his hand lunging out to grab the boys from the top of the stairs. I feel hypersensitive and numb. Regenerating scar tissue means dry, flaky skin, itching, sharp pains, and deep ache within my bones. These are from countless stab wounds I failed to deflect from my scalp, face, neck, ankle, and fingers. 3 fingers on my left hand still are numb. The severed tendon in my middle finger has not yet gained any improvement. I should be continuing physiotherapy, but I feel as though I cannot afford to trade my wages for the proper care and investment that my injuries deserve. Trauma response. Yes, I would love to have my finger function again, but I cannot bear the idea of agreeing to have it cut into again, even by a professional for surgical assistance. Certainly not with the high stakes gamble of further shock from the absolute injury to my body. My body's reaction to pain is stunning. Zinging through every square inch of my skin, shooting up and down, in and out, radiating with sensitivity. I vibrate, sweat, and lose grip again. I experience this multiple times a day from endless sources. A bump, tap, pressure, or touch to any of the many injury sites that still feel so tender. Simple as walking outside into our beautiful cold winter days aggravates the scar tissue. Particularly my forehead. The cold seeps in through the scar tissue and spreads into the bone. My skull took a brutal beating that day, and I continue to suffer from severe tenderness, nerve damage, headaches, and scar tissue rejuvenation. Seemingly minor touches to my forehead often contact precisely on point, the same spot where the attacker's full force thrust with the chef's knife's blade to my face, narrowly missing my right eye. The frequent flares of pains coupled with relentless headaches are daily reminders of the injustice my son and I continue to endure. Every day I dress, shower, cook, any objects I must grab in meticulous ways to not affect these many injuries. Frequently, I mutter curses at flicking a light switch, opening door handles, and carrying grocery bags, which re-injure the defensive wounds on my hands. Grief instantly swallowed me whole when I burned my wrist last summer, a steam incident during work for my personal business. This sent my body into a plunge. I spent the first 2 weeks of healing in a haze of re-traumatized reaction to the physical pain and suffering that my tender body and mind were experiencing. Trauma response. Then, just as ordinary as this week's mail, I opened my driver's license. I was not prepared to see the scars portrayed in this small black and white photo. Revealing my updated identification is stunning. This is the real me. It is challenging to breathe in this permissible reality. I defended us against this brutal attack and continued to contend with it throughout each day, interacting with coworkers and the public, facing many different people with many different expectations and responsibilities. I must maintain composure throughout these repetitive tortures, trudging through PTSD as well as the average daily stresses of life. Income, rent, utilities, employment expectations, cooking, cleaning, self-care, mental health, physical healing, all while keeping up with single mother responsibilities. There has been no restitution for what Mr. Ritchie so forcibly inflicted on us that day. I will never forget the look in his eyes as he persisted to cut me into a rag doll. Introducing Miss Frankenstein. Her carpenter vanished, abandoning her with no tools to cope with this alternate reality. I feel torn in two, dodging between societal expectations from me versus the post-traumatic stress triggers. What is acceptable? There is no care for me. Fortunately, I was able to shield the 2 young victims that were in my care, but there was nobody to protect the first physically assaulted minor, another child traumatized by the unaccountable hands of Mr. Ritchie. It is extremely difficult to digest, sickening, maddening, hurtful, and to forgive. How are we to move on from such an invasive experience? How do we heal from this? Open to suggestions because I am so tired of this weight, yet there is nowhere for me to put it. The man took 30 minutes to instill the deepest fear into 4 innocent lives and he bears no responsibility. Our assailant's millstone is completely mine to bear. I am in disbelief. I don't deserve this, nor does my son and the other 2 children. Our lives still revolve around the neighborhood where the assault took place. Often I drive past the convenience store and find myself fixated on the trail Mr. Ritchie trekked from where his first victim escaped his grasp, right there on this familiar store's video surveillance. I continue to pray that this child is receiving the support he needs. Although my son and I moved out of the house where I was so harshly butchered, our friends still call that place home. They were not witness to this crimeless stabbing and can go on living without a second thought about blood-stained kitchen floors or the puncture from a knife blade that hides behind a child's photo on the fridge door. Difficult to make sense, the lack of acknowledgement, the ignorance towards what occurred there, and our post-traumatic struggles from the experience of Mr. Ritchie's invasion. My Christmas dinners are tainted with horrific memories which I must act like don't exist or miss out on festivities with those I love. Choke back tears, shake aside the triggers. Merry Christmas, everyone! Community members are appalled when hearing of this incredible altercation I survived. Many express their concern for our community's safety. No one can believe when I say, he is free to live his life with us in our community. I feel like there has been no resolution for what happened to us, so I don't know how to release the tension that builds up throughout every single day. I have had several conversations with concerned families. I can't give them any assurance or answers. I don't know what to say. I have nothing. I am bobbing through trauma-infused bones and debt. After I collapsed in the fall of 2023, I put my self-employment aspirations to rest. I am now primarily employed only a few kilometers from the same neighborhood where we were attacked at home in our pajamas. People are unpredictable, and I no longer trust that a stranger won't hesitate to violently hurt me. I had no clue what lay dormant outside the familiarity of home. Returning to work has revealed several post-traumatic stress symptoms. My obsession with locking doors only followed me. I catch myself locking doors at work, which are not meant to be locked during hours of operation. Coworkers and I make light of it, but these are moments to nervously grin at. Trauma response. Gently step over this triggered moment, hope no one catches on, and proceed with my day. As I type this statement, it was only last month when I was triggered while at work once again. Stunned. This was a big one. Panic crept in as I processed what I'm hearing on the radio. 12 blocks away, the very same neighborhood I was brutally attacked in. A warning to the community. Shelter-in-place orders. Another violent assault in progress. 3 schools placed on lockdown. Oh my goodness, I could not breathe. I was relieved that my son was not within one of those schools, but what a thrust into memories of fighting for our lives, waiting for help to arrive, tortured with visuals of some of the most confusing and terrifying moments of my life, throwing me a break for the victims in this or any situation, remembering how my son and I were dropped like a bag of potatoes, recognizing the healing process this victim and many others have ahead of them. I pray for restitution. Restitution for the victims. We did not ask for this trauma. I am still in shock, confused, tormented. I want to heal. I often find myself unable to process or move forward when triggered at work, being confronted by all kinds of new people in all kinds of moods, stresses, and expectations. I freeze on a regular basis. Trauma response. Hold my breath and no idea how to respond until hours or even days later. I am stronger and more resilient than this. What is wrong with me? I am so tired of pushing through it all, but I can't afford to take a mental health day every time I fall apart. Keep it together, Grace. There is no assistance for me. Between my son and I already lose income for an average of 2 days per month attending therapy appointments. Approximately 24 days per year, only a small piece of Mr. Ritchie's lasting financial and emotional impact. I am working 2 jobs, averaging 10 to 12 hours per day, 6 days a week, trying to keep up with the cost of survival. Mr. Ritchie is not responsible for his actions, yet his victims are left with the hefty bill for the pursuit to a possible recovery. Sadly, my physical healing doesn't receive the attention and investment my body deserves. Part of the cost to survive since being assaulted is the debt I am accumulating while I suffocate in shock. This is still weighing heavily over my head with high interest rates. Banks refuse to assist me because I have been self-employed for the last 6 years. According to them, I have no employment history. Something most people cannot understand is the connection to my spirituality through my hair. I honor my hair. Did I lose connection? Doesn't look like it. Okay. I honor my hair. I have never taken up damaging habits like repeated heat or treatments and dyes. My hair is sacred to me. The multiple stab wounds to my skull cut plenty of strands out. The violent physical beating I suffered ripped out and matted more of my hair. Then to lay down on the sidewalk into the twigs and spruce needles to rest from this relentless attack. The damage was extensive, and I was unable to care for my hair properly due to my butchered hands. I needed my knee-length hair brushed out and braided. Despite my discomfort in salons, I regrettably went in for help. Perhaps the shock from the beating I endured prevented me from processing the fact that I could reach out and ask my mother to travel across provinces to nurture and care for me. Trauma response. The hairdresser was kind, but she did not know how to manage long hair, and I was too vulnerable to make requests, thus the sacrifice of more hair. The wretched mess of blood, leaves, twigs, and stitches crisscrossing my scalp ensured a mound of frayed strands surrounding my feet at the end of it all. Then came the stitch removal attempt, where the nurse carelessly snipped another chunk of hair from my head. I listened to the review board compassionately discuss my assailant's need for a prescription change due to his side effects of weight gain and hair loss. Will I receive the same compassion as my aggressor? Photos that reveal the thickness of my long hair prior to the stabbing is another heartbreaking trigger. The intermittent tickle or pokes at scar tissue with strands of hair is another consistent strain on the walls I put up to pretend like life is normal. What even is normal? Hot, cold, stinky sweat. Many nights are spent tossing and turning. Most days begin with waking from night sweats. Trauma response. Peel the damp sheets off my clammy skin, shower off the fear stench, review myself in the mirror, and ensure all the scar tissue is clear of any renewing skin flakes or crusties. Gross. Do not look too closely at me. You might see that my smile is forced and my eyes are dull. Above the aftermath, and I carry on each day to maintain my responsibilities. No matter where I go or what I do, I will always be followed by the traumatic looming cloud of betrayal. Are you there? Do you see me? I am real. This is me. He trespassed. I was injured and attacked, violated. We are deeply affected. My son and I casually discuss our memories and the reality of Mr. Ritchie's intrusion. We are both processing the aftershock. He is young and trying to understand what happened and why. What am I supposed to tell him? This was a crime scene, yet no crime was committed. Okay. Ouch, my head. Mom, I thought you died. My heart sinks when he revisits this. Sorry, buddy. I too am traumatized, and I am not sure what to tell you about all these post-traumatic stress symptoms. What we experienced was indeed very real, and we do not forget. I worry about my son when he is not with me. What situations he faces, the triggers he confusingly steps over throughout each day as his own trauma responses. It is clear he is trying to understand such big emotions. I do my best to guide him along, but I am also triggered and off-center. Because no one is responsible for Mr. Ritchie's intentional, merciless, and determined force to trespass through a once seemingly impassable, overgrown private property gate, I see two options for myself. Allow the abandonment to knock me over and lose everything I have left. Or, if I want to heal, I must carry the cost of repair to my mind, body, and soul. How many more therapy appointments will it cost me to recover from Mr. Ritchie's intensive force? I must maintain a sound mind in order to provide for me and my son. I must push through the trauma responses because I have assistance to cope with because I don't have the assistance to cope with the aftermath of a violent violation. I am consistently in a nervous state, consistently in survival mode, always at the ready to fight for my life. It is exhausting. To never completely relax, I am struggling to keep up with everything I need to accomplish for my son and I to have a place to live in peace and food to eat. I fought for our lives that day. We won. Why does it feel like I still have to relentlessly fight? Will I ever feel like our victory is satisfied? I suppose this is the level of betrayal that cannot be reversed. Is security a sensation I will ever breathe in again? I did nothing to provoke this violent assault from Mr. Ritchie, and I am left abandoned, slipped through the cracks, someone to avoid eye contact with. Others get to avoid facing my chopped up reality. Please forgive my dark, sarcastic humor, but my son and I have been discarded and left to navigate through the shock and trauma with each moment of each day that we live. How difficult it is to structure the effects of the assault on my son and our friend. It is exasperating. The physical task alone to type this up is strenuous on my healing finger tendon. It doesn't bend, but it really tries. Ouch! My numb fingers can't feel the keys, often mispressing a letter firmly enough. But these are small impacts that most people won't think about. Dallas Ritchie's choices are very real. Mr. Ritchie's actions are severe and extend beyond his direct four victims, greatly impacting those of us who live in this community. At 3 years post-aggravated assault, how am I expected to cope with these compounding trauma responses? Blatant ignorance I receive from the occasional outsiders compile atop the damage he caused. Whether or not we victims received recognition, acknowledgement, and validation for our attackers' impact, the fact remains. Children's lives were forever altered due to one man's actions. Consideration of offering forgiveness to him pains my tender head. I can't imagine what that looks like if he doesn't hold accountability for inflicting this torture upon us. I thought he was going to kill me that day on our kitchen floor. I had to fight back with all I had to protect my boys from that giant man's violent intrusion. Now I cannot escape this fight to survive, stuck in survival mode. I fight every day for our lives. Trauma response. I pray that one day we won't have to. How do I release myself from this torture? We pray for restitution and peace. Okay, so writing an impact statement is challenging. I said it multiple times in this statement. I'm still in shock. It's been 3 years. And I mean, things are loosening up and getting easier to work through and digest and deal with, but there's still a lot of shock. And, you know, stepping from the self-employment into the public working for the man again, I never expected to experience so many, and I didn't even notice I was doing it. Like, just freezing, deep breath and freeze, and no idea how to process. And it's been tough. And I mean, I work with great people, and it's been really good for my personal growth. I'm really happy with where I'm at, but I'm shocked at the challenges I never expected to face. So I think I'm just going to dive right into reading the disposition. So this takes a couple weeks to receive after the hearing. Like I said, that was on February 14th. And I just got this only a couple weeks ago. So this is what the board decided, and I'm going to read all of it to you. It's very fine print, and I don't have my glasses. So let's see what we can do. Whereas Mr. Dallas Ritchie has been charged that on or about the 30th day of March 2021 at or near Grand Prairie, Alberta, did unlawfully wound, maim, disfigure, or endanger the life of Grace Fram, thereby committing an aggravated assault contrary to Section 268 of the Criminal Code of Canada. On or about the 30th day of March 2021 at or near Grand Prairie, Alberta, did unlawfully assault Constable Welsh, a peace officer engaged in the execution of his duty contrary to Section 270 IA of the Criminal Code of Canada. On or about the 30th day of March 2021 at or near Grand Prairie, Alberta, did unlawfully break and enter a dwelling house located at Grand Prairie, Alberta, and occupied by Grace Fram with intent to commit an indictable offense therein contrary to Section 348 IA of the Criminal Code of Canada. On or about the 30th day of March 2021 at or near Grand Prairie, Alberta, did have in his possession or carry a weapon or imitation of a weapon or prohibited device or ammunition or prohibited ammunition with a knife for a purpose dangerous to the public peace, or for the purpose of committing an offense contrary to Section 88I of the Criminal Code of Canada. On or about the 30th day of March 2021 at or near Grand Prairie, Alberta, did unlawfully assault, I won't say his name, contrary to Section 266 of the Criminal Code of Canada. I don't know if it makes any difference, but he was not carrying a weapon. He took them from the household. He didn't have a weapon on him. He used them after I put up a fight. I think he thought he could take me, and he couldn't, so he tried to use a knife instead. And I'm still here. And whereas on December 1st, 2021, in the provincial court at Grand Prairie, Alberta, the Honorable Judge M.B. Golden found Dallas Ritchie not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder and directed that the accused not be held in custody at Alberta Hospital, Edmonton, and that the review board hold a disposition hearing within 90 days of December 1st, 2021. And whereas on January 27th, 2022, via video conference, the Criminal Code Review Board held a disposition hearing pursuant to Section 672.47(2) and made a disposition. And whereas the last review of the disposition order was held on March 16th, 2023 via video conference, and whereas on February 14th, 2024 via video conference, the Criminal Code Review Board held a hearing pursuant to Section 672.81(1) and reviewed the previous disposition and designated the Attorney General for the Province of Canada as a party pursuant to Section 672.53. And whereas the Criminal Code Review Board is in the opinion that Dallas Ritchie is a significant threat to the safety of the public and is not entitled to an absolute discharge. So, at each review board hearing, obviously, Dallas's lawyer's goal is to get a complete discharge, and that would mean there's no more of these hearings and there's no more required prescriptions. They're like, okay, well, here, this is his conditions. It's better just to read it. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordered and directed, pursuant to Section 672.54(b), the accused be discharged subject to the following conditions. Keep the peace. Abstain from the use of alcohol, non-prescribed drugs, and any cannabis product. Not own, possess, or use a weapon. Maintain good mental health. No contact or communication directly or indirectly with Grace Fram, and they list all victims, and their immediate families. Do not attend or go within a 200-meter radius of the address, the property of the index offense. Do not attend or enter any known residence, workplace, place of worship, or school of any of the victims of the index offense. Attend or report to Forensic Assessment and Community Service, Edmonton, or Forensic Assessment and Outpatient Services, Calgary, monthly or more often if so directed. Attend before Criminal Code Review Board when notified to do so. Travel in the province of Alberta for up to 7 days and 6 nights with prior approval of the treatment team, and reside in an approved accommodation. Pursuant to Section 672.56(1), the board delegates to the Zone Section Chief Forensic Services, Southern Alberta Forensic Psychiatry Center, or his designate authority to direct that the restrictions on the liberty of the accused may be decreased within the following limits. He can travel in Western Canada up to 7 days and 6 nights, supervised by a responsible adult with prior approval of the treatment team. So he lives with his parents. Did get to be the approved overseer, supervisors, I don't know, accompaniment for him. So I don't feel safe about that. I mean, they're his parents, so how honest are they? I mean, they're the ones who let him go off his meds in the first place to have this happen. So I just don't agree or trust that. But now they've extended it. Not only is he allowed to travel within Alberta, he's also allowed to go to BC or Western Canada. So I don't know if that includes Saskatchewan, but it is further ordered and directed, pursuant to Section 672.121, an assessment report be prepared by the treating physician at the place where the accused is detained or directed to attend, to be made available as soon as practicable after receiving notification that the accused is to be scheduled for any review of this disposition by the Criminal Code Review Board. This disposition comes into force on February 14, 2024 and remains in force until further disposition by the Criminal Code Review Board. So this lists everyone that attended the review board hearing. There's an attorney general, his lawyer, the zone section chief of the Alberta hospital, and then his treatment team. So I decided to read this whole thing because I always try to sum it up, but there's a lot of people with a lot more education on the justice system than I am, so I realize that this actually makes sense to some of you, and it better answers than my shock regurgitation of this. So I'm going to continue to read this, and I'll... Yeah. Okay, so... The exhibits, there's 3 exhibits. There's an assessment report and a pre-board and checklist, and then the victim impact statement. So the index offense, it says, Dallas Ritchie was found not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder in Grand Prairie Provincial Court on December 1st, 2021. Dallas Ritchie was charged with aggravated assault, assault a peace officer, break and enter a dwelling house, possession of a weapon, and assault. Current diagnosis is schizophrenia, multiple episodes, currently in full remission, and cannabis use disorder, mild in sustained remission. Review. Number 1. The hearing proceeded by way of video conference technology. Board members, Crown Counsel, and legal counsel for Mr. Ritchie attended the hearing by video conference technology. Counsel for Mr. Ritchie confirmed agreement to the hearing proceeding by video conference pursuant to Section 672.513 of the Criminal Code. The board has reviewed the exhibits, which included the following evidence. Mr. Ritchie was first noted to experience psychological issues in 2019. After certain unfortunate events in his life, he sought psychological help at the time. Prior to the index offense, Mr. Ritchie reported usage of alcohol and cannabis, but not at significant levels. He did not have a prior criminal history. After the index offense, Mr. Ritchie was admitted to Alberta Hospital, Edmonton, where he was largely cooperated and settled. He was discharged from Alberta Hospital in spring of 2022 and returned to Grand Prairie to live with his parents. He remains in Grand Prairie and meets with the FACS team, FACS treatment team. It's forensic. I already read it somewhere. I can't remember. F stands for forensic. Treatment team, as well as with a psychiatrist and mental health team in Grand Prairie. He has maintained a voluntary CTO. Mr. Ritchie is pursuing schooling and has used 4 passes to Edmonton on 4 occasions with no noted concerns. He appears motivated and cooperated with good insight. Utilizing the HCR-20V3 and VRAG-R assessment, if absolutely discharged, Mr. Ritchie's global risk for future violence is low. That's their assessment. It's low. The likelihood of this violence, should it occur, resulting in serious physical harm is high. So they're saying the chance of him having a violent altercation is very low, but if he does, the risk is high. Based on the seriousness of prior violence, the likelihood of imminent violence is low to moderate. There is a possibility that he may move to Calgary to pursue schooling. and this will introduce stressors into his life. Number 3, during the hearing, the treatment team also answered questions and provided further evidence, including the following. A, Dr. Choi is the new psychiatrist. It used to be Miss Dr. Erin Will. Oh boy, I tried to find out where she went and why we got a new one. I'm grateful we have a new one because he actually seems smart here. The only thing I can find on the internet is that she's like the lead lecturer at the hospital for dentistry and psychiatry or something like that. So I don't know if she got a new position. So we got Dr. Choi. Noted the following corrections at page 3, second line. The language should be amended to Mr. Ritchie's global risk of likelihood of future violence. Furthermore, on the checklist, condition I should be checked off. B, Dr. Choi noted the following updates. Mr. Ritchie has been following his usual schedule in Grand Prairie. He saw his community psychiatrist, Dr. Grew in January 2024 and voluntarily renewed his CTO. A urine drug screen on February 7th, 2024 returned negative for any substances that shouldn't be in his system. Mr. Ritchie appears to be doing well. C, Dr. Choi agreed that the conclusion of the risk assessment he completed is congruent with that of Dr. Wills in the previous reporting period. However, Dr. Choi noted that Dr. Will did not conduct a psychological assessment. Like, they really don't take anything seriously. It's unreal. They didn't do a drug screen on the guy in the hospital, or rumor that I heard is that they did do one, but it got dismissed for whatever legality reasons. So there's no drug screen except when he knows he's going to be. And they never did a psychological assessment. And they do this all through video conference. D, Mr. Ritchie plans to move to Calgary in the upcoming reporting period. He has applied to the University of Calgary and SAIT, where while he has not yet been accepted, the treatment team noted that with Mr. Ritchie's personality, it is unlikely that he would have applied to these schools if he did not have a degree of confidence he would be accepted. E, when Mr. Ritchie moves to Calgary, Dr. Choi may consider transferring Mr. Ritchie's care to the Calgary forensics team. Regardless of which forensic team is in charge of Mr. Ritchie's care, Dr. Choi anticipates that Mr. Ritchie will link up with a Calgary-based general psychiatrist, and the responsible treatment team will communicate with that psychiatrist and access medical records as necessary. Mr. Ritchie had requested frequency of reporting to be every 3 to 6 months, and Dr. Choi is generally agreeable to the same. However, Dr. Choi indicated that no actual investigations or plans in this regard have been started yet. So ever since the assault, Mr. Ritchie has expressed interest in contributing to society, and that he wants to go to school and become a businessman. So he's been attending GPRC, which is not GPRC. It's the Poly Western Tech or something now. Polytech? I don't know. It's got a new name. But he's going to the college here in Grand Prairie. And I was told by authorities here in Grand Prairie that it's been decided that Mr. Ritchie will never, ever receive a complete discharge for as long as he lives in Grand Prairie. So if I was told that factually, it does not surprise me that he's trying to move to Edmonton or Calgary, because it's his only chance at possibly getting a complete discharge. So he's got a good lawyer, and he's trying to get off the hook here. The treatment team is not recommending an absolute discharge at this time because Mr. Ritchie is planning to move to Calgary. Dr. Choi explained that in looking at Mr. Ritchie's risk profile, he considers that the individual might experiencing what the individual might experience the upcoming year. A move to Calgary is obviously an environmental and emotional stress factor. Mr. Ritchie will be in a new environment away from his supports, and he has never been in such a scenario before. Such stressors heighten Mr. Ritchie's risk for future violence, even if he is compliant with medications. I like that. So the doctor's not discouraging him from the move. And I try to understand why, and I get it. Like, you know, you're trying to help someone, so you want the best opportunity possible. So, you know, the guy is trying to go through school and change his life and make something better of it. So the doctor's not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to cause a lot of stressors, and he's just saying, like, we need to keep an eye on him. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. I am so glad we have a new psychiatrist. I'll just go there because I'm assuming anything beyond that. So G. Dr. Choi confirmed that in the last reporting period, Mr. Ritchie traveled to Edmonton on 4 occasions, each time with family. All were without incident. Mr. Ritchie has not traveled by himself before. He's not supposed to. It's part of his conditional discharge. I still don't have faith in his parents reporting accurately. However, H. Mr. has good insight into his illness, how it has affected his behavior and thought process, the role that medication has in keeping his mental illness at bay, and the effect of substance use on his mental state and functioning. He has not used substances since being under the auspices of the board and has expressed the intention to take medications for the rest of his life. He is doing a very wonderful job at presenting himself for the circus. Number 4, Mr. Ritchie chose to make a statement. He advised that his CTO was actually canceled on January 30th, 2024, and it was deemed unnecessary by Dr. Grew. Mr. Ritchie expressed remorse for his index offense and apologized. He is committed to his mental health now and has worked hard to get to where he is today. He plans to continue work with his psychiatry team in Grand Prairie and any new psychiatrist that Dr. Grew may refer him to. He has been and will continue to upgrade his education and hopes to be a contributing member of society. Number 5. Miss Fram read her victim impact statement at the hearing. That's it. That's all the recognition for the victim in the entire 8-page disposition. Out of my, well, it's 17 pages because I print it like very wide apart, spaced. After all that in my statement, I get Miss Fram read her victim impact statement at the hearing. Position of the parties. Number 6, counsel and patient. Counsel for Mr. Ritchie submitted that Mr. Ritchie is entitled to an absolute discharge. He noted Mr. Ritchie's global risk of likelihood of future violence is low, which aligns with all the evidence. Any consideration of a move is speculation and should not be factored into the risk assessment. In the alternative, counsel for Mr. Ritchie would support a conditional treatment with the conditions recommended by the treatment team. It's frustrating, it's painful, it's hilarious to watch this all take place and listen to them actually talk, and like to listen to the lawyer and how he's like trying to insist that he should have this absolute discharge, and then topping it off with, but if you disagree, we're good with this conditional discharge. This is okay. Like we don't need to go to the hospital, But anyway, position of the Crown. The Crown supports and the recommendations of the treatment team. The index offense was serious, and as evidenced by the victim impact statement, its effects lasting and significant. Okay, so I do feel like I should thank you, Crown, for acknowledging me. Council disagrees that Mr. Ritchie's global risk is low. His risk of inflicting serious physical harm is high, and of imminent violence is in the low to moderate range. Furthermore, this risk increases with Mr. Ritchie's plans to move to Calgary. The treatment team bases their own risk on Mr. Ritchie's plans, and in a new and untested environment, the team... There's a lot of spelling errors, and I don't know what this word... The team opens that there... That doesn't... I don't know what that word's supposed to be. The team opinion that there is a risk of relapse, even if he remains medication compliant. The treatment team isn't speculating. There is some certainty that this will occur. So the Crown has always been kind of like, well, they're supposed to be the middleman, where they're not on my side, they're not on his side, they're for the people. So they are, I think, every time the only ones that listen, that hear me and actually acknowledge my existence. The position of the hospital. Alberta Hospital Edmonton supports the recommendations of the treatment team. However, representative for Alberta Hospital would not object if there were restrictions for travel in Western Canada. Analysis. Number 9. In making this disposition, the board is guided by the discretion of the Supreme Court of Canada in Winco, British Columbia, 1999, 2 SCR 625, Winco. The board must first determine whether the safety of the public is at risk. This determination is A, based on the assessment at the time of the hearing, B, based on the evidence at the hearing, and C, only made where there is some certainty, where the NCR accused is a significant threat to the safety of the public. 10. The Court of Appeal of Alberta has defined significant threat in this way. Annoying behavior is not enough. The risk must be of criminal conduct. A serious risk of trivial harm is not enough. There must be a significant threat of a serious level of harm to the public. Speculation of uncertainty is not enough. There must be a positive finding of a risk of harm to the public based on evidence. So, I mean, what he did to me is he's a significant threat to the public. The board is to consider all evidence before it, including but not limited to past course of the NCR accused treatment, expected course of the NCR accused treatment, the present state of the NCR accused medical condition, the NCR accused own plans for the future, the support services existing for the NCR accused in the community, and very importantly, assessments provided by experts who have examined the NCR accused. So when I read that, it tells me that they make their decision off of all these assessments, And nowhere there does it say it takes the impact statement in consideration. I'm going to keep going here for now. Number 12, however, the board must not simply accept the treatment team's opinion about significant threat. Rather, the board must assess that opinion against the evidence. Number 13, in making a disposition, the board must make safety of the public the paramount consideration. Number 14, upon making a determination regarding the significant threat, Section 672.54 of the Criminal Code requires the board to make a disposition that is necessary and appropriate to the circumstances from among the following. A, where the NCR accused is not a significant threat to the safety of the public, an absolute discharge. B, if the NCR accused is a significant threat to the safety of the public, the NCR accused may be discharged with conditions or detained in a hospital, subject to any conditions that the board considers appropriate. The board must make a disposition that is necessary and appropriate, one that curtails the liberty of the NCR accused as little as possible in the circumstances. Disposition, number 16. Based upon the evidence before it, the board, in a unanimous decision, determines that Mr. Ritchie continues to be a significant threat to the safety of the public. 17. Utilizing the HCR-20V3, if absolutely discharged, Dr. Choi assesses Mr. Ritchie's global risk for future violence as low. The likelihood of this violence, should it occur, resulting in serious physical harm is high. Based on the seriousness of prior violence, the likelihood of imminent violence is low to moderate. Furthermore, Mr. Ritchie's plans to move to Calgary to continue his schooling. The board finds that this move is not merely speculative. Mr. Ritchie confirmed his plans to upgrade his schooling and has applied to both the University of Calgary and SAIT. The treatment team noted that it is unlikely Mr. Ritchie would have applied if he was not reasonably confident that he would be accepted. When Mr. Ritchie moves to Calgary, it will put him in a new environment away from his supports. This will introduce stressors into Mr. Ritchie's circumstances, and the possibility of relapse increases. Mr. Ritchie's global risk then also increases. The board accepts that this assessment of risk is based on evidence and not mere speculation. It is significant to establish that the legal test is met in this respect. Number 18, the board is satisfied that there is some certainty that Mr. Ritchie remains a significant threat to the safety of the public and that the board cannot discharge him absolutely. 19, after rejecting the possibility of an absolute discharge, the board then considered whether it is necessary and appropriate to maintain Mr. Ritchie on a conditional discharge rather than a full warrant. Number 20, based on the evidence before it, the board accepts that Mr. Ritchie is being adequately managed on a conditional discharge. Mr. Ritchie remains medication compliant, has not posed any management issues, and demonstrates a commitment to his mental health. The treatment team's recommendation of a conditional discharge is therefore supported by the evidence and not mere speculation. It is appropriate and necessary to protect the public of the safety of the public. 21. The treatment team then considered the conditions recommended by the treatment team. In particular, given that Mr. Ritchie has not yet traveled on his own and does not have a solid travel plan, the board, in a majority decision, finds it appropriate to start with travel in Western Canada for up to 7 days and 6 nights, supervised by a responsible adult and delegated to the zone's section chief. Furthermore, in context of the planned move to Calgary, the board finds it is appropriate to have Mr. Ritchie report to FACTS team at least once monthly. The remaining conditions otherwise allow Mr. Ritchie to continue his transition into the community and pursue his plans. These conditions and privileges are necessary and appropriate to protect the safety of the public. 23, therefore, the board orders that Mr. Ritchie remain on a conditional discharge subject to the conditions recommended by the treatment team set out in Exhibit 2 with the following amendments. I don't think there's any point in reading the 4 amendments because we don't even have the actual checklist for it to make any sense with. I've been wondering if I shouldn't request a copy of that, which I should. So, as I said, I feel as though his move to Edmonton or Calgary is his long-term plan to get complete discharge. And I have little faith in this because he was originally diagnosed schizophrenic in 2019 in BC, and then he moved back here to Grand Prairie in 2020, and the team that was supposed to be monitoring him in BC let him fall through the cracks when he moved to Grand Prairie. So he moved back here. He's no longer being followed, checked in on, whatever, and he quit taking his medication. And within 6 months of coming back to Grand Prairie, he found himself in my kitchen, standing in my blood. So, yeah, that's great. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to direct this and use this experience to help others. Obviously, my target is other victims, and the system. This needs to change. I want to be a support to victims for writing their statement. I like to write, and I have a hard time writing my own. I'm in shock, and it's hard to get going, but once I get going and the sarcasm starts flowing, this is my only justice that I get, is to be able to be as raw and as honest as it can be. I spend all day, every day, trying to ignore the pain, trying to belittle the effects or my thoughts or all of it. I try to make everybody else feel more comfortable and not coddle me, and it's extremely difficult. It makes me bitter. It shuts me down. I've ignored my pain for a long time, and I finally got in with a new physiotherapist. So in my statement, I discuss how much that cost me because I have to miss work for it, but I finally got in with this physiotherapist, and I can't wait to see her again. I've only seen her once, and I'm supposed to see her bi-weekly now, so here's another, like I said, missing work. And like, I don't get help for this. Mr. Ritchie is all looked after. He has appointments online, to speak with the doctor, so there's no stressing him out to get to his appointment. And I'm pretty sure, well, obviously I'm assuming, but he lives with mom and dad, so how much does he have to worry about his finances? And he's in school so he can become a businessman and contribute to society, so how much does he have to worry about anything? This was the first year that he did offer his own statement, and it was interesting to hear. I actually really appreciated it. My feelings and attitude towards him is confusing. I am definitely more at peace with Dallas Ritchie than I am with the justice system. I'll tell you that much. So I want to expose the difficulty for victims having to write a statement in shock and under a timeline and under the possibility of being edited. You know, most victims aren't going to be writers. I don't consider myself a writer, but I enjoy it at least. So I can only imagine what some of these statements are. And, you know, the people in the system that were guiding me into this when I first got started, especially with my first statement, they expressed how good of a statement it was, how impactful it was, and they have encouraged me ever since to continue with it, explaining that oftentimes offenders will get the complete discharge because the statement isn't provided, and it's easier for that to get swept down under the radar. If you can be in one of these hearings, like, you know, all they speak of is the index offense. You know, they don't describe what happened and the fact that he nearly killed me in front of 2 kids. They just talk about the index offense. So it's cleaned up and whatnot, and you can see it says right on there what they're supposed to look at to make their decision from, and obviously the victim impact statement is not one of them. So I want to find a way that victims get more recognition in things like this. I want to find a way that I can support victims for writing their statement. And I want to help encourage victims not to give up on writing their statement. Some people along the way, when I first got started, discouraged me right from the start, told me it's not worth it. You'll start to get on with your life and things will start rolling, and then all of a sudden you'll have to go to court again. All of mine are through video, so whatever, but it absolutely does throw you for a tailspin. You absolutely do get rolling with life, and all of a sudden, bam, check your inbox, and here's an email stating, you know, you got very short time to puke out the actual honest truth of how it is to live every day, all of everything that you choke down and try not to share so you can pretend like your life is normal. Let's get it out in words. It was very difficult to get going on it. It took a lot of work to edit it and get it not so broken up and all over the place, but we got there. I don't know. I know I always have so much more to say, but I don't know what else to say right now. That was a lot. Thanks for listening. I have an excellent plan for next year's statement. It's going to be epic, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. It's going to take me all year to work on it, and next year when I get the email, I'll be ready, and it's going to be good. So I'm going to let you go because I'm just going to ramble into more nonsense. But anyone who has any input, any suggestions for me, if you're a victim out there struggling with your statements or anything, please reach out. I'm very limited to how much I can put myself into that stuff, but I want to get in there, so be patient with me, but I do want to hear from you. So thanks for listening. I finally got that out. It's been 3 years to the day, and yeah, I still have my Christmas tree up, but it's a lovely decoration that makes me happy. Okay. Have a great day, guys. Happy Easter.